Hello and welcome to Take This TV, the television book club podcast where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and we talk about them with our friends in the fandom. I think that's you.
That's you.
That's you! Oh, wow! Hello, I'm Carmen Askerneese and I'm joined by my friend Kimberly Woods. Hello!
Hello, what's up, hot potatoes?
What's up, hot potatoes? So this season we're watching Constellation. What's this week's episode about?
This week's episode is episode 2. It's called Live and Let Lie. Jo races to find a way back to Earth before her life support runs out. Henry is concerned about his experiment.
He sure is.
Oh boy, isn't he?
What did they do to my boy? So in this episode, I had a theory from last time that I forgot to mention.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the theory.
And I thought about it when they were doing like the previously on for this episode. So in episode 1, when Paul gets hit with he gets stabbed and then his arm gets crushed.
Yep.
His blood is like floating around the space station.
Yep.
And I was like, what if whatever this new state of matter is mixed with Paul's blood? And I was like, oh, dang. Like, maybe, like, because Paul's blood mixed with whatever the thing is, like, it gave it some kind of sentience or something like that.
Yep.
And I feel like that might come into play in this episode.
I think so, too, Carmen, because they really did focus on those blood droplets a lot, and I remember getting concerned when that lady who was, like, trying to revive him got some, like, on her face and was like, you know, and now she's back on Earth and I was like, uh-oh, what's happening here? So something's transferring.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Space blood. Yes. So this episode was wild from the start. We see Jo, which now it seems more like separate timelines. So in the future, when she's in the cabin, I think we were wrong about, like, her finding her daughter in the wardrobe in the cabin. I think that was
like a separate building.
Separate building.
Another wooden structure.
Another wooden building. So she gets her daughter back to where they're staying at this secluded cabin. And her daughter's freezing, so she's running the water and trying to warm her up. And then she turns her back and notices in the mirror that her daughter is actually still in the bed, sleeping. And so she's like, what's happening? So she's seeing double daughters.
And to the one in the tub who was all, you know, dirty, she says, "You smell like you again."
Yes, which was like so weird because it's like, what? I mean, I don't know. Maybe kids have a unique smell.
Maybe, but then we learn later that the one that's all like in the PJs and not all dirty does not have a smell and throws her off. So what's with that?
Yeah, why doesn't she smell like herself? Or
I don't know.
Yeah, what's that all about?
I don't know.
And when so the daughter in the PJs gets up out of bed and is kind of freaked out that her mom is sort of running about the house. Her mom rushes back towards the bathroom and she can see her daughter in the bathtub as she's approaching. But once she gets to the bathroom, that daughter is gone. Yep. And the tub is empty.
Yep.
So it's like, what?
What is happening?
What's happening?
And the other daughter doesn't know what she's talking about.
She has no idea, and she's freaked
daughter.
out.
PJ daughter.
PJ daughter. So, then we kind of cut back to the ship.
Yes, and we have 6 hours and 45 minutes of remaining life support, which at first I was like, okay, so we're going to spread it out over the remaining episodes. You know, we have about 6 more episodes to go, so that's going to be spread out. But no, that's not the case. We start ticking through those hours very quickly.
Yes. Jo mentions that, like, oh, I think I might have passed out because my blood sugar level is low or like my oxygen's low or whatever, which was something we talked about off camera of like, is Jo, like, seeing these hallucinations of the cabin? Does this mean that she's dying in space? Is she suffocating?
Yeah, is it because of the low oxygen?
Yes, and so they kind of let you believe that for this episode because, for the most part, everything happens sequentially from here on out until the very end of the episode. But we'll get to that later. So
she's working through light and dark this time. In the previous episode, she was being pretty diligent about going in and then, like, you know, being in the hatch, but because she doesn't have any time, we see her continuously working to, you know, change the batteries, and we find out that she's on her own as far as how to recalculate her re-entry.
Yeah, she loses connection with mission control, so she has to calculate her re-entry on her own. By the way, like, she has to change 4 batteries, and she's like, oh, it took me 90 minutes to change a battery. I've never repaired a spaceship. But 90 minutes to change a battery sounds like a long time. So I'm like, well, maybe it's really complicated, but it just looks like she's like unscrewing them and screwing them back in. So I was like, I don't know why it's taking so long. But so anyway, she's up there trying to figure everything out. And back on Earth, we see sort of tensions are starting to rise. Henry meets up with, is it Irene?
Yes.
And there's a scene where Henry gets off the plane and goes to meet Irene, and they kind of like kiss on the cheek a little bit.
Yeah, they kiss on the cheek, but we can sense that there's definitely some chemistry there.
Yeah, the vibes were always there, right? But I was like, okay,
yeah,
you know,
okay,
go
Henry
ahead.
and Irene.
I mean,
and we get this weird dialogue from them. So like, I think Henry says, have you heard from your sister? And Irene is like, I think you know she's passed away. And then she's like, and your brother? And he says, not in many years.
Right, which previously he mentioned his brother as someone he wanted that could be helped by this experiment. So it's like, now we get the impression he doesn't have a close relationship with his brother, or he's kind of disgusted by his brother. So I don't know what the deal is there.
I don't know. But we also learn more about Henry, or Bud, as he likes to be called, I guess, who, you know, was an astronaut himself and had some sort of traumatic experience, which he dodges in an interview.
Yes, he gets absolutely triggered by that and snaps at the reporter.
But Carmen, everybody's seeing double, right? Are they actually talking about their doubles here?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
They're like, your sister, your brother, and it's like, wait a second.
Oh, snap.
Did they also have this problem?
Maybe. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, just doing it live. That makes me think about last episode we talked about the pills that everybody's taking. What if they are like the double versions and they're taking those pills to like be able to stay in this form or something? I don't know.
Oh.
Now we're way in.
Theories.
It's like crazy
Forming.
theories. Yeah. But no, that's really cool. I didn't even think about that. But yes, so Bud kind of loses it on this interview, but everybody thinks that Joe is dead, essentially, and so they're trying to figure out what to do and how to move on. We
also get this weird, creepy moment when Joe has started recording herself to like hear her own voice because, you know, and to not go crazy alone on the space, you know, International Space Station. And she hears a weird sound, which at first sounds like a monster, and she plays the recording back, you know, creepy and slowly, and we hear finally that it's actually Paul.
It is Paul's voice. And so she hears Paul's voice, which, like, makes her curious, so she starts going through the ship, and she sees Paul's hand floating. And I thought there was going to be an Evil Dead moment where, like, his hand was going to come to life or something, but when she reaches out and touches his hand...
Severed hand.
Yes, severed hand, yeah. She, for a moment, sees him, like, fully whole and alive. Mm-hmm. But then when she snatches her hand back, it's just a severed hand again. Mm-hmm. So is that, what do you think? Is that like an alternate reality thing?
No, I don't know. Or just have to go to your, like, blood thing theory. It's bizarre.
I don't know.
And there was another creepy point before that where his little shroud comes off and floats near her, and she goes down to check on him and make sure he's not breathing, puts her face close to him to make sure. Right. And we're like, what's going to happen? Is he going to come back to life? Like,
she puts her face right up next to his corpse to see if he's breathing. I'm like, you can't check his pulse or something? Okay.
But it's creepy. But yes, so Paul is along for the ride throughout this episode, including during her re-entry when he starts bleeding, which they are, again, blood, which they show us.
Yeah, so he doesn't bleed in the space station, but once they get back to Earth, he starts to bleed again. And when she's trying to detach from the space station, one of the clamps fails. And it says in the manual that she looks up that it takes 2 people to deal with a clamp malfunction. One person in the shuttle and one person on the space station. And she's all alone. So she's like, what am I going to do? And she's trying to frantically just press all the buttons and try to get something to work.
But someone pushes the button on the other side.
Somebody
We
does.
don't know who.
We don't.
But the button depresses, and then as she's detaching and floating away, we see something left behind.
Who is it?
Who is it?
There's that moment like where we see her floating away from the space station, and then we see sort of someone's silhouette in the window, and it reminded me of the shot in episode 1 when the first group left the space station and Joe floats over to the window, which made me go back to the theory of like, are they in a time loop? Like, is her past self the one who pressed the button?
Yeah.
But like, I don't remember her pressing a button in episode 1. So
because we see in the reflection, it's like a double as she's watching them go away. So again, we're getting this double theme, double imagery thing. I don't know. Is she leaving part of herself behind?
Oh, that would be kind of beautiful, I guess. In a weird way out. Just like leaving that part of her behind.
Oh, no. Yeah. Live and let die.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, there it is. It's all in the name. We figured the mystery out.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. We solved it. So she makes it back. She crash lands, a few feet away from the edge of a cliff as the parachute's like pulling her towards it. And, luckily she stops. And we have this beautiful moment of her like, unbuckling, breathing air again, feeling gravity again. She opens the hatch and
a wolf is there.
There's a wolf. Welcome back to Earth.
But he gets shot, and everybody shows up to save her. Which, like, I was like, oh my gosh. Could you imagine doing all of that and then a wolf shows up? that would be pretty rough.
Yeah, we survive all that just to be,
eaten by a wolf.
This is how it ends.
Yeah.
Not with a bang, but with a wolf.
But thankfully she's not digested and she gets saved. And while she's being sort of recovered by the recovery team, her daughter rushes over and her ex-husband, whoever rushes over, her baby's daddy rushes over. Magnus. And she's, gone through a really traumatic experience, so she's really happy to see him too, and they embrace. And then Frederick is his name? I think the other guy.
Frederick.
Yes. Yeah, he makes his way over.
And that's a very interesting interaction because we can kind of tell that there was something between them. Yeah.
Definitely feels like there was some kind of love triangle happening at some point.
Some affair or he was the old flame. Something.
But as soon as he comes over, she's like, get me out of here. Let's go.
Yeah. And she's saying, I'm back. I'm here. I made it back. Right. So we're getting this like interesting, because in our minds we're like, did she fully make it back? I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, she's saying I made it back and kind of like checking with Alice and Magnus and making sure it's real for her because, it has to be a surreal experience anyway to be up in space and come back down to Earth.
It has to be a different world. Getting used to gravity again. And there's that moment where it feels like, we can sigh along with her, like we're safe. The show is going to be about the drama now of like these organizations all fighting for power. But no, that's not what the show's about.
Nope.
So they're all on the helicopter, and what happens once we get there?
Before the helicopter scene, we have the double baby moment.
Oh,
we gotta talk about the double baby moment.
Double baby.
We have Joe, who's like, my baby, like reuniting with Alice, her daughter. And then we have Henry, who's rushing towards this experiment that Joe has successfully brought back. And it's like, oh my God, my baby. Everybody, we have to make sure it's all right and make sure the chemists are prepped. And so he checks and makes sure, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's here. Like, what is the Russian word for eureka? So he's, excited about his baby.
It's kind of cheesy, but it's also kind of amazing at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty amusing. It's pretty funny.
Henry really cares about this experiment, and we still don't really know what it does, but I'm starting to feel like that the correlation between all these things happening and whatever that particular new state of matter is probably not a coincidence.
Yeah. So back on the chopper, it's been kind of nice as an audience member to get like, okay, like she made it back. We can trust this. We're grounded in this reality that she actually did come back. But then we have a moment where Alice is alone by herself in the chopper, and we're like, okay, where did everybody go? And then suddenly Joe is alone by herself in the chopper. Okay, Where's Alice and Magnus? Like, what's real? What's not? What's happening right now?
And then they're all back together again. And naturally, instead of being like, did y'all see that? Did you happen to happen to you? Is it just me? She doesn't say anything. But I mean, I feel like nobody really believed her about seeing the cosmonaut. So I understand why Joe would be hesitant to be like, hey guys, I just got back and you thought I was dead, but now I'm seeing stuff. So yeah.
And it has to be pretty overwhelming anyway. And she keeps talking about in this episode smell. So once again, she says, you forget how Earth smells.
Oh, yeah.
Too. Like when they're both back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right after that moment. So it's interesting. But right after that, when we have all of them back on the chopper again, suddenly, here we go. We're back to our first scene again where she's with the clean daughter in her PJs.
Pajama Alice.
Pajama Alice, and she's like, something's amiss. Where's my lovely smelling Alice? We gotta go find her.
We gotta find her. She's gonna freeze. It's too cold.
Yeah, it's too cold. She's gonna freeze again. We gotta go.
Yeah.
So that's how we leave the episode.
They run out into the snow outside.
The endless snow.
The endless snow to try to find other Alice. Which, like, I feel like it does. Like, Pajama Alice could have been like, what? Like, I didn't see anybody else. We were in the house the whole time. There's only one door. So, like, how did she get out of the house? So, I don't know. I wrote down a note as we were watching it. I was like, it can't all be a dream because we see things from the other characters' perspectives.
Yeah.
When Joe's not there. And, like, we learn things that Joe doesn't know. Like, especially with Henry and with Irene. But after seeing Alice also experience the stuff that Joe's been going through, I'm like, I don't know anymore. Yeah. We'll see.
I don't know.
I'm along for the ride.
Me too. I'm totally on board. So, can't wait for the next episode.
Me either. Yeah, I have a lot of theories, and I feel like every few minutes I'm like, oh, but this and that. No, all that stuff's wrong. So, we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review. Tell us what you thought in your comments. Tell us all your theories. We're at Take This TV on social media, on TikTok and on Instagram. Thank you for watching, and welcome to the club. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.